The Christmas lights twinkled, casting a warm, fuzzy glow over our living room. It was Christmas Eve, and my older sister, Clara, had just handed me a beautifully wrapped gift. It was a perfect cube, covered in shimmering silver paper with a deep crimson bow. "I found this at a strange little antique shop," she whispered, her eyes gleaming with excitement. "It's supposed to be really old." I carefully untied the ribbon and peeled back the paper. Inside was a wooden box, intricately carved with swirling snowflakes and winter scenes. It felt cold to the touch, unnaturally so. There was no key, just a small silver latch. With a soft click, I opened it. A blast of frigid air rushed out, smelling of pine and ancient ice. Inside, nestled on a bed of faded velvet, was a single, perfect snow globe. Within the glass, a tiny, isolated cabin sat amidst a swirling blizzard. It was mesmerizing. I picked it up, and the world tilted. Not just the globe, but the whole room. My head spun, the Christmas lights blurring into streaks of color. The scent of gingerbread and cinnamon was replaced by the sharp, clean smell of a blizzard. I felt a dizzying pull, like being sucked down a drain, and then silence. I blinked, my eyes adjusting to a dim, gray light. I wasn't in my warm living room anymore. I was standing in knee-deep snow, the wind howling around me, biting at my exposed skin. Before me stood the exact same cabin from the snow globe, a lonely plume of smoke rising from its chimney. Panic set in. I screamed for Clara, for my parents, but the wind swallowed my voice. The forest around me was a wall of black, skeletal trees. There was nowhere to go but forward. Shivering violently, I stumbled towards the cabin. The door creaked open before I even touched it. Inside, a fire crackled in a stone hearth, but it gave off no warmth. The air was just as cold as outside. The cabin was empty, yet it felt watched. A single rocking chair sat by the fire, swaying gently back and forth on its own. On a small wooden table was a half-eaten meal, frozen solid. It was as if someone had just vanished mid-bite. A sense of crushing loneliness washed over me, a despair so profound it felt like it was part of the air itself. This wasn't just a cold place. It was a place of forgotten things, of lost souls. Days bled into a perpetual twilight. The sun never truly rose. I survived on frozen berries I found on thorny bushes and melted snow over the phantom fire. The feeling of being watched never left. Sometimes, I'd see fleeting shapes in the woods, dark figures that disappeared when I turned to look. At night, I'd hear whispers on the wind, names I didn't recognize, carried on a mournful sigh. I realized this place was a prison. The snow globe wasn't just a decoration, it was a cage. And whoever was in here before me was gone. One evening, huddled by the useless fire, I heard a new sound. A faint tinkling, like a tiny bell. I looked towards the window, and my blood ran cold. Outside, pressing against the frosted glass, was a face. Pale, with hollow eyes and blue-tinged lips. It wasn't menacing, just sad. And then I saw it. Dangling from its neck on a leather cord was a small silver key. The key to the box. But behind this sorrowful face, another figure was forming in the swirling snow. Larger, darker, its form indistinct but radiating pure malevolence. The first figure pointed a trembling, frostbitten finger, not at me, but at the woods. It was a warning. I had a choice. Stay in the relative safety of the cold, lonely cabin, or risk the woods and the dark thing that hunted there to get that key. The cabin is a prison, but the outside is a graveyard. And I think I'm the only thing left here that's still warm. I don't know how much longer that will last. Thanks for listening. If you enjoyed this story, make sure to like and subscribe for more. The old house stood on the edge of town, a skeletal silhouette against the bruised purple of the evening sky. We just figured they couldn't handle the isolation. The centerpiece of the living room was a massive stone fireplace, its mouth wide and black with soot. It was perfect for the cold, lonely nights that were fast approaching. The first time it happened, I was alone, curled up on the sofa with a book. I'd lit a fire earlier, and the logs were now a bed of glowing embers. As I watched the gentle pulse of the heat, a shape began to form in the flames. It wasn't a log shifting or a trick of the light. It was a face, a man's face, his features twisted in a silent scream. His eyes, wide with an ancient terror, seemed to bore right into me. I blinked, and it was gone, leaving only the soft glow of the embers. I shook it off as exhaustion. An overactive imagination, I told myself. But it happened again a few nights later. This time my partner was there. We were watching a movie when I saw it. A different face, a young woman's. Her hair seemed to be made of flickering flames, and her mouth was open, though no sound came out. I grabbed my partner's arm, pointing. "Do you see that?" I whispered, my voice trembling. He looked, squinting at the fire. "See what? The log that looks a bit like a squirrel?" He laughed, but the laugh died in his throat when he saw the look on my face. After that, I couldn't stop seeing them. Every time we lit the fire, a new face would appear. An old man with a long beard, a child with wide, innocent eyes, a woman with tears of fire streaming down her cheeks. They would surface from the heart of the blaze, their expressions a mix of agony and disbelief, before dissolving back into the embers. They were trapped, their final moments replaying on an endless loop in our fireplace. One evening, driven by a morbid curiosity, I went to the town's historical society. I spent hours poring over old newspapers, looking through archives of missing person reports. The faces were all there. Mr. Abernathy, who vanished on his way home from the market in 1978. Sarah Jenkins, a teenager who disappeared after a school dance in '92. Little Timmy Miller, who went missing from his own backyard 50 years ago. They were all there, their black and white photos staring back at me, their stories ending with a question mark. All of them from this town. All of them now burning in my living room. That night, I didn't light the fire. We sat in the cold, the darkness of the fireplace's gaping mouth feeling more menacing than any flame. My partner suggested we board it up, sell the house, and forget we ever saw anything. But I knew it wasn't that simple. As I sat there, staring into the black abyss, I felt a strange pull, a cold draft that seemed to come from within the chimney itself. It felt like it was calling to me, whispering my name. We found out the house was built by a man named Elias Thorne, a reclusive figure from the town's early days. The local legends painted him as a dark character, someone who dabbled in things he shouldn't have. They said he made a pact to keep his fire burning forever, and that it required a steady supply of fuel. Not wood. Something else. Something more vital. The realtor's words echoed in my mind. The last family left in a hurry. I now understood why. They saw the faces too. They understood what this house wanted. The fireplace isn't just a window into the past, it's a doorway. And it's always hungry. We're packing our bags tonight. We're leaving everything behind, and we're not looking back. Because as I was boarding up the hearth, I saw another face begin to form in the soot, one I didn't recognize from the archives. It was new, and it was smiling. Thanks for watching. If you enjoyed this story, don't forget to like and subscribe for more chilling tales. Stay safe out there. The first real snow of the season always felt like magic. It blanketed our little town in a perfect, silent white, muffling the world and making everything feel brand new. It was the kind of night that demanded hot chocolate and Christmas carols. My friends, Liam, Chloe, Maya, and I, had been caroling together since we were kids. It was our tradition. Bundled up in scarves and hats, we set out, our breath pluming in the frigid air. We started with the classics: Jingle Bells, Silent Night. People opened their doors, smiling, dropping coins into Maya's donation tin for the local animal shelter. The night was going perfectly. We were on the last street, a quiet cul-de-sac at the edge of town, when Liam pulled a folded piece of sheet music from his pocket. It was old, the paper yellowed and brittle at the edges. "Where'd you get that?" I asked, peering over his shoulder. The notes were strange, unlike any music I'd ever seen. The title was smudged, unreadable. "Found it in a box of my grandpa's old stuff," he said, his eyes gleaming with excitement. He was a collector of folk music. Said this one was ancient. "Let's give it a try. It'll be our grand finale." Chloe was hesitant. "I don't know, Liam. It looks weird." But the rest of us were curious. We huddled under a flickering streetlight, trying to decipher the tune. It wasn't melodic in a traditional sense. The notes were discordant, rising and falling in an unsettling pattern. The lyrics were even stranger. They weren't in English or any language we recognized. It felt guttural, ancient, like words that weren't meant for human tongues. "Come on, it's just for fun," Liam insisted. So we did. We stood in the middle of the empty street, surrounded by silent, darkened houses, and we sang. Our voices, usually so harmonious, clashed in the cold air. The tune was jarring, a grating sound that scraped at the back of my throat. The wind picked up, howling through the trees, and the single streetlight above us began to flicker violently. A sudden, deep chill settled over us, far colder than the winter air. It felt like the temperature had dropped 20 degrees in an instant. Halfway through the second verse, Maya stopped. "Guys, stop. I don't like this." We all fell silent. The wind died down as abruptly as it had started. The streetlight stabilized. But the silence that followed was heavier, more profound than before. It felt watchful. "See? Nothing happened," Liam said, though his voice wavered slightly. "Just a weird old song." We decided to call it a night. The fun had been sucked out of the air, replaced by a nervous energy. We said our goodbyes at the end of the street and went our separate ways. My house was the furthest, down a long, tree-lined road. As I walked, I couldn't shake the feeling that I was being followed. The crunch of my boots in the snow seemed to be accompanied by another sound, a soft, dragging noise just behind me. Every time I spun around, there was nothing, just the empty, snow-covered road stretching back into the darkness. I told myself it was just my imagination, my nerves frayed from that creepy song. I picked up my pace, my heart thumping against my ribs. The dragging sound grew closer, more distinct. It wasn't the sound of footsteps. It was the sound of something heavy being pulled slowly across the snow. I broke into a run, not daring to look back. I fumbled with my keys at the front door, my hands shaking so badly I could barely fit the key in the lock. The door swung open, and I stumbled inside, slamming it shut and locking it behind me. I leaned against it, gasping for breath, my eyes squeezed shut. Silence. Then, a soft scratching started at the door. Scratch. Scrape. Scratch. It was slow, deliberate. It sounded like long nails or claws methodically testing the wood. I backed away from the door, my blood running cold. From the other side, a voice whispered my name. It wasn't human. It was a raspy, dry sound, like leaves skittering across pavement, but it was shaped into my name. Then, it started to sing. It was the song we had sung. The melody was perfect, no longer discordant. It was horrifyingly beautiful. The voice was low, ancient, and filled with a chilling hunger. It sang the strange, guttural words from that old sheet music, and as it did, I could feel the cold seeping through the door, through the very walls of my house. The Christmas lights outside my window flickered and died, plunging the front yard into darkness. The scratching stopped, and the singing grew louder, closer, as if it was right on my doorstep, waiting for me to open the door and join in. I sank to the floor, covering my ears, but I couldn't block it out. The song was a promise, and I knew, with sickening certainty, that it had followed me home. And it wasn't going to leave. Thanks for listening. Don't forget to like and subscribe for more stories.